Hello, is anybody there yet?
Don't worry, Councillor, we are here. We're just waiting for the meeting to start now.
Okay, thank you. I'll shut up now. Thank you.
Do we have to confirm that we're here or something?
Don't worry, when the meeting starts, the chair will make sure that everyone who needs to be there for each item is present and can hear and can participate.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you to everyone for attending this hybrid meeting of planning on Thursday, the 25th of June, 2020. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Councillor June Molyneux, Chair of the committee. Councillor Chris Francis, Vice Chair. Also present are officers, councillors who will be asked to introduce themselves in a moment. Please note this is a hybrid meeting. We have some members here in the Lancastrian room, some members joining from home via Teams. We have registered speakers joining via Teams and Committee Room 1. A recording of the meeting will be available online following the meeting. If you have joined the call or are attending in Committee Room 1 because you're a member of the public who's registered to speak, please note you have a time limit of up to 3 minutes. Your microphone will be unmuted when invited to speak. The legal officer will operate a stopwatch and confirm when your time runs out. You should then finish, or if in the middle of making a point, wind up with a few seconds before and then finish speaking. For ease, a pack has been prepared which contains the report, plans, presentation slides and any addendum for each item to ensure everyone can easily follow the agenda. This is available online. After officers have presented the report and any speakers have made representations, I will invite members to make any comments. When speaking, please reference the page and paragraph number to enable everyone to follow you. Our legal officer, Alex, will repeat the motion before the vote is taken to ensure everyone is aware of what is being voted on. I'll call upon each member alphabetically to vote, and Alex will confirm the outcome of the decision. If the technology fails, then I'll adjourn the meeting for a few minutes and try and resolve the issue, or if this isn't possible, a new date and time will be organised. Please can I ask all members to confirm they can hear and speak before the meeting begins. I'll call out each member in alphabetical order. Councillor Beaver. Councillor Boardman. Councillor Boardman.
Yes, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Corns.
Yes, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Gordon France. Danny G. Councillor Danny G.
Yes, Chair.
Councillor Gray. Councillor Hargreaves.
Yes, Chair.
Councillor Hilton.
Yes, Chair.
Councillor Morwood.
Yes, Chair.
Councillor Whittam.
Yes, Chair.
Councillor Whittaker. Unmute. Could you unmute your microphone, Councillor Whittaker?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor France.
I'm here.
It's no good nodding. I couldn't see you. Also, our officers, Adele Hayes.
Yes, Chair.
Ian Crossland.
Here, Chair.
Alex Jackson.
Yes, Chair.
Nina Nessa.
Yes, Chair.
Right, we'll go on to the business. Apologies. Apologies have been received from Councillor Dalton and Councillor Corns is substituting. Declarations of interest.
Yes, I have a declaration, Chair. Alan Whittaker.
Thank you. Item.
On the item at the end of the agenda on Heskin.
Thank you.
I'll take no part in the discussion.
Okay. Item 2, minutes. Minutes of the meeting Tuesday the 26th of May, pages 3 to 4. Could somebody move those, please?
Move those, Chair.
Thank you. Seconded.
I'm happy to second.
I'll second
Thank
those,
you.
Chair.
Thank you. I'm going to do both sets together. Item B, minutes of the 28th of May.
Happy to move
pages
them,
5
Chair.
and 6. Thank you. And seconded. Thank you.
Yes, Chair.
Can you vote on those, please, in alphabetical order? Councillor Beaver,
Yes, Chair. For.
Councillor Conks.
Yes, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Gordon France,
Yes, Chair.
Councillor Danny G,
Yes, Chair.
Councillor Gray, Councillor Hargreaves,
Yes, Chair.
Councillor Holgate. He's not here,
No.
is he?
No.
He's on my list and shouldn't be, sorry. Councillor Morwood.
4, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Whittam. Councillor Whittaker.
4, Chair.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Chris France.
4, Chair.
And myself. Okay. So the meeting was approved. We're moving on to Sorry.
Are you able to hear me clearly on Teams?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I doubt it.
Sorry, I'm unmuted now. I do apologise for that, Chair. It's just something in relation to the declaration of the interest by Councillor Whittaker. He did say he'd take no part in the meeting. Just for clarity, the advice is that not only should a member who declares interest take no part in the meeting, but they should actually leave the meeting as well. So they should terminate participation in Microsoft Teams in the meeting as well.
Okay, thank you for that.
Does that mean? Sorry, Chair. Does that mean that I have to leave now, or just when that item's
just
being
at that
discussed?
item. Just when that
Yes,
item's
indeed.
being
Okay.
discussed, Councillor Whittaker.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 3A, planning applications to be determined. There are 6 items to be determined. Speaking arrangements for planning as follows. Officers will summarise the report. Registered speakers will be invited to speak in the following order: objector, supporter, parish town councillor, ward councillor, applicant or agent. All registered speakers will be allowed to speak for 3 minutes, apart from the ward councillor who may speak for 5 minutes. In the event that all speakers are against an application, as chair, I will grant the applicant or representative a time extension. And I would respectfully ask members of the public who haven't registered to speak to remain quiet throughout the proceedings. Item 3A, land bounded by Town Lane, Lucas Lane, Whitley Woods. It's pages 7 to 28 in your pack. Adele's going to present the item. The recommendation is the application is approved. I have no registered speakers. Adele, can you present the item, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair, and good evening, everybody. The application site is located to the south of Town Lane and east of Lucas Lane in Whitley Woods. The site forms part of an allocated housing site within the Jolley local plan, and Planning Committee granted outline planning permission in September last year for up to 83 dwellings, with a subsequent reserved matters application being approved for 53 dwellings. This application seeks to discharge the requirements of Condition 17 that was attached to the outline planning permission, which requires the submission of a surface water drainage scheme. Members will be aware that it's most unusual for applications to discharge conditions to be presented to committee, as they generally involve technical matters which we rely on expert evidence to be satisfied that the details that are submitted are acceptable. However, in this case, you will recall that at the committee, we did undertake to bring back the surface water scheme back to members because there was a lot of local concern about the matter, hence why it's on the agenda this evening. In this instance, the Council's expert advisors on such issues are LTC in their capacity as the lead local flood authority and United Utilities. After requesting further information from the applicant, they have responded raising no objections to the scheme. In summary, the submitted details include a drainage area plan, a ground investigation report, a drainage layout drawing, site cross-section drawings, a flow control manhole drawings, hydro break drawing, a flow characteristic drawing, a water course works drawing, head wall details drawing, drainage calculation, and a sustainable drainage maintenance plan. The submitted information demonstrates that the proposal would prevent the increased risk of flooding both on and off site and reduce the runoff to the properties on Town Lane. The existing greenfield surface water runoff rate is calculated at 5.778 litres per hectare, whereas the proposal would reduce this to 4.3 litres per second per hectare. The proposal therefore accords with the national and local planning policy with regards to flood risk and surface water drainage and is acceptable in this regard. Consequently, the details are considered to be acceptable and the application is recommended for approval and the condition should be discharged. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Adele. I'll now invite members for their comments and to ask any questions to officers. If you'd like to speak, to do so, please raise your hand. If you're joining from home, please raise your hand virtually on Teams. Councillor Whittaker. Okay. I've got Councillor Whittaker, Councillor Gordon-France. Councillor Whittaker. Unmute yourself, Councillor Whittaker.
Seems to moot me on purpose, this thing. However, I'm grateful for the information that Adele's given. A very simple question. It seems fairly straightforward, but I've come across many occasions when we get these reassurances from LCC and from United Utilities, who are interested only in getting lots and lots of money from the residents that are living there. Will LCC and United Utilities accept responsibility if flooding occurs? My question.
I don't think it's appropriate for me to make that commitment on their behalf. And ultimately, it's a matter for the mitigation to put in. You know, the information before us has been assessed by technical experts and it's been deemed to be acceptable, but with regard to future responsibility for flooding, then that's not something that I can give that commitment to on behalf of LCC or United Utilities.
Okay. Councillor Gordon.
Forgive my cynicism. Sorry.
Go on, Councillor Whittaker.
Sorry, forgive my cynicism. I've come across expert witnesses before from LCC and United Utilities and don't have much faith in them, but I'll listen to what Adele says, of course.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Gordon-France.
Thank you, Chair. There is a site not more than a mile and a half away from this site with a similar flooding system that has caused no end of trouble for myself, Councillor Mark Clifford and County Councillor Kim Snape. It seems one of the ponds is not situated correctly, but I do take some reassurances from the fact that United Utilities are happy with this layout because United Utilities are involved with on this other site because it is a mess. It's flooding gardens in Lady Cross Drive. It's causing no end of trouble and it seems very much the same drainage layout. So I cannot support this application.
Okay. Any more comments from anybody? If not, could somebody move the officer recommendation?
I thought I had it, just didn't.
Didn't get you.
I'll support the officer's
Thank you, Councillor Beaver.
support the officer's recommendation.
Somebody second it, please, and then I can move to the vote.
I can second that.
Second that.
Councillor Boardman.
Thank you. Thank you. That's Councillor Boardman.
Councillor Molyneux,
Yes.
just before we go to the vote, your list needs updating. Ruth's going to come and bring one for you, but just to include Councillor Boardman and Alex Hilton on this list. It's not on your list now,
Oh, right.
but Ruth will bring one.
It's all right.
I thought you were
Thank
quiet.
you.
Councillor Boardman and
Hilton.
Hilton.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get them in that in alphabetical order. Okay. So it's been proposed by Councillor Eva, seconded by Councillor Boardman. Cool. Can you confirm the proposal, please, Alex?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, the proposal being asked to vote is application to discharge conditions. Sorry, I was muted. Members are being asked to vote.
That's it.
So I'm now unmuted. Members are being asked to vote on the application to discharge condition 17 for the residential development comprising of 83 dwellings. And the motion is to approve the application to discharge the conditions. Condition 17.
Chair, can I just interrupt? I noticed that Councillor Boardman has his hand up. He wishes to speak. I don't know whether you'd seen that on the screen.
Oh, I've not.
That's an old hand,
sorry.
actually, Chair, so ignore that hand, please.
Take it down then.
I'll try
We'll
my
get
best,
used to
Chair.
this technology one day. We will get there. So I'll call on each member alphabetically to vote for, against or abstain. Councillor Beaver. Councillor Boardman.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Corns.
For.
Councillor Gordon France.
Against.
Councillor G.
For.
Councillor Gray. Councillor Gray. Got him. Councillor Hilton.
Abstain.
Thank you. Councillor Hargreaves.
Against.
Councillor Morwood.
For.
Councillor Whittam.
For.
Councillor Whitaker.
For.
Councillor Chris France.
For.
Councillor Molyneux 4. Alex, could you confirm?
Thank you, Chair. I can confirm that members have voted to approve the application to discharge condition 17.
Thank you. Moving on to item 3B. Land adjacent to Spring Crescent, Whitley Woods, pages 29 to 60, with an update on your addendum, so the recommendation remains the same. Ian's going to present this item. It's recommended the application is approved subject to conditions, and I have one registered speaker, an objector, Barbara Bird. Barbara, can you confirm that you're able to speak and hear the proceedings?
I can. Excuse me. Yes, I can.
Thank you. Ian, can you present the... Yes, we can. I'll just get Ian to present the item and I'll come back to you. Ian, could you present the item, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. This application seeks full planning permission for the erection of 2 semi-detached bungalows in a part of Whitley Woods that falls within the Greenbelt. The application site comprises a parcel of open land at the corner of an existing cul-de-sac consisting of a grassed area. Trees and shrubs to the perimeter have recently been removed, however. It's noted that planning permission was granted in November 2017 for the erection of a detached bungalow on this site of similar scale and footprint to that which is proposed as part of this application, and that this consent remains extant. The site is undeveloped amenity land in the Greenbelt. The framework and local plan allow for limited infilling in villages in the Greenbelt. The site is considered to represent a small gap in an otherwise built-up street frontage in the context of the cul-de-sac at Spring Crescent. Furthermore, the status of the site as an infill plot in a village and the overall principle of development has already been accepted as part of the previous planning approval. The proposed dwellings will be small in scale and of a simple modern design that would be appropriate in the context of the area, whilst the development will be a continuation of the existing cul-de-sac. The site is most prominent from the A674, where there are several examples of residential developments backing onto the highway. The proposed development would follow this pattern and would require a 2.8 metre high fence to screen the development and provide privacy. Although this fence would be prominent, its mass would be broken up by horizontal and vertical panelling, and the timbers would weather over time, serving to soften the impact. The proposed dwellings would meet with the council's interface guidelines and would result in no unacceptable detrimental impact to residential amenity. The site would be accessed from Spring Crescent. It would have vehicular access from Spring Crescent, with a requirement for 2 parking spaces in line with the council's parking standards, and this standard will be met. LCC Highways have confirmed that they raise no objection on highway safety grounds, and overall the proposed development is considered to be in accordance with the policies of the development plan and is recommended for approval subject to conditions as set out on the report and the addendum. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Ian. Barbara, I'll invite you to make your representations. After Alex, can you please start the timer, please?
I'll just start the timer now, Speaker, and you have 3 minutes.
Okay, Barbara.
Thank you. Regarding the above application, this has been my home since the bungalows were built back in the 60s. And in all this time, I have never had to deal with such a messy situation. The land in question has actually been maintained at our expense. The previous application was granted for 1 bungalow, and now the application is for 2 properties. Please tell me why. These 2 properties are not in keeping in any way with the other properties on Springs Crescent. The granting of 2 properties will surely compound the problems we have already mentioned, this being in relation to the turning circle. Each property could have 2 cars and maybe more. One of the driveways on the plans is right against our boundary fence line. So if someone is backing out, this cannot be seen from our driveway. So again, problems will arise. The turning circle is already problematic when neighbours have visitors making access in and out and turning difficult. The road itself is already narrow, and granting planning for 2 properties is irresponsible and foreseeable hazards re vehicle movement. Furthermore, the impact all this will have on our privacy is enormous. The application has caused much stress to myself and my husband, especially the actions taken over the past few months. Remember, we have been in lockdown, but this did not stop trees being cut down, which included a very well-established bird nesting tree. Much of the vegetation and trees cut were not on the land allocated to the property, which does concern me. This is irresponsible behaviour from the site owners. What other rules will they breach? Re-encroachment onto site boundaries. The cuttings of the vegetation were thrown onto adjacent land. Again, the owner is blatantly fly tipping onto other land. I have continuously made requests for the field to be cut. This has been ignored. And also requests have been made to speak to the builder, again ignored. Dialogue with neighbours is key re any building work. The cutting of the trees has made the area completely accessible to not only the land but to our property, which has added more stress as this is the area where access was gained when we were burdened. Profit seems to be more important than people's quality of life. So for all these reasons, I object very strongly to this application. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to invite members for their comments now and to ask any questions to officers. If you'd like to do so, please raise your hand. If you're joining from home, raise your hand virtually via Teams. Over to you, Mentor. Councillor France, Gordon France.
Yes, Chair, thank you. I objected to this application on the last time when it was granted because I felt it was inappropriate development in the Greenbelt. I do know the area. It is a cul-de-sac and it is a very, very tight turning circle. I've been up there on a number of occasions and I do think whilst two parking spaces is within the Jolley plan. I do think it will cause an awful lot of congestion up there. It's a very, very small site. I appreciate the two properties aren't a lot bigger than one property, but I would like to propose against this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hargreaves.
Thank you, Chair. I visited the site. It's not far from where I live. I do feel it's inappropriate infill on Greenbelt. It's not big enough for two properties, and I would say that we need a site visit because the lady's quite right. It's a very small piece of land. One property would suffice. It is on the end of the cul-de-sac and it is a turning circle. I do propose that we actually have a site visit to look at this because this is a little bit too much. There's no need to have two properties there. It is very, very tight squeeze indeed.
Okay, thank you. Any further comments from anyone?
I've got my hand up,
Yes, Chair.
Oh, sorry. Hang on. Councillor Beaver.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, this was first came as one property and now we've got with two. 2 weeks' time, it's going to be three. Before we know it, we've got a skyscraper on it. I agree with what the speaker said about all the various parkings. The hammerhead is tight. One would be fine. We can only go by what's in front of us. I would oppose a site visit and I would seek to reject it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments from anybody? Councillor Moore.
Councillor Boardman.
Sorry, Chair. I thought Councillor Whittaker was before me, but I'm happy to, if you don't mind. That's all right. And I'll put the video on. Do you see my face? I went on the site visit when the single double two-bedroom bungalow in 2017 was raised, and we were concerned that it wouldn't fit, and we went to have a look, and we, on the whole, decided it could just about manage it, and we're, well, obviously the majority were in favour. Now we have, as people have said, two one-bedroom. I understand that the two one-bedrooms don't take up a bigger footprint than the original two-bedroom bungalow, which means they're going to be very small bungalows indeed. But I do feel that this is not quite right, and there's a bit of, well, I'm not quite sure what's going on, but I have the feeling that it's inappropriate infill, and it is greenfield. I'm not happy with it. I'm not even happy about the large 2.8 metre fences on the back, two parking spaces. It's going to be like the Italian job going in and out of that hammerhead. So at the moment, I'm not quite sure whether to refuse it or not. But obviously, there are a number of new councillors, and they might want to go and see it as a site visit. I don't need to myself, but at the moment, I'm not sure I can support this. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Whittaker, sorry.
I'd like to second the proposal for a site visit, Chair. I can't remember if I was on the original site visit, but I'm a bit worried about a 2.8 metre fence anyway. But it seems like there's lots of things going on here and we need to have a look before we give permission. So I'm seconding the site visit that Yvonne made.
Okay, thank you. Adele, you want to come in? I can't hear you.
Sorry about that, Chair. I hadn't unmuted it. It's muted itself again. I just want to make the point that members need to be mindful that the resolved position of Jolley Council is to grant development on this site. And that is a material planning consideration in the assessment of this application. For members' benefit, inappropriate development needs to be defined and clearly set out, and members will be aware that planning policy allows for up to 1 or 2 dwellings in an infill plot. Therefore, in principle, it's not inappropriate development. If members are moving with a recommendation for refusal, it's important that we set out what that reason is, and it's based on planning grounds. And just to draw your attention to the fact that LCC have not objected on the basis that the vehicular movements anticipated from 2 one-bedroom units is essentially broadly in line with what would be anticipated from 1 two-bedroom unit. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any more comments from anybody? Councillor Chris France.
Thank you, Chair.
Got you, Councillor Whitaker.
Councillor Boardman, Chair. Councillor Boardman, support that too. Sorry, I can hear you, Councillor Boardman. I've just pointed it out.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I'm looking at this. I'm sort of head scratching because I can't really seem to tell the difference between the previously approved one and the current one. In that, in reality, the difference to me seems to be that they put a dividing wall in between in the property and split it in two. But it does seem to be the same property. So I am a little bit concerned. Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
Councillor. So I just wanted to check. I can't hear myself. And it does seem to be pretty much, as I said, the same property with a dividing wall. So I can't see how it's going to have any impact on the Greenbelt that the other property didn't already have. I'm struggling to see how it's going to be have any other impacts that the other property doesn't have. Don't get me wrong. I really do feel for the applicant with the issues that they've got with the current individual doing the work on the site. But considering that there's already a previous approval, I mean, a refusal on this isn't going to do anything to the previous approval, and I can't see how the approval is going to change it that much. So I don't really see the need for a site visit.
Okay, I've got Councillor Whitaker, Councillor Boardman. Councillor Whitaker. I've not got Councillor Whitaker.
Yes, I'm here now.
Oh,
okay. Yeah, it keeps muting me. Okay, the key word from what Adele was talking about, which of course I respect her views, of course, is the inappropriateness of the application. And it's if one dwelling was appropriate in the Greenbelt, the question is whether two dwellings would be inappropriate. And I can see a reason that there might be. We've talked about a 2.8 metre fence, which has suddenly come onto the equation. So that site visit would determine whether two dwellings are still appropriate in this area. And that's why I support a site visit. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Boardman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just unmuting myself there.
It's all right, don't worry.
A couple of things. I think, as the speaker mentioned, if the developer or the applicant has been cutting trees down, shrubs, etc., on the site, then I think it's something for our planning officers to investigate anyway. We all know that we can't be cutting trees down between March and August, so I think that's one point that we need to ask our officers to have a quick look at. Secondly, I think I do agree with Adele's comments that the principle of development has been approved by this council and this committee on this site. The footprint isn't greater than what went before it, and I'd err on the side that you can have a 3-bedroom bungalow with significantly more cars than you can 2 very small 1-bedrooms. You may or might not remember that this council used to build 1-bedroom tiny bungalows a long time ago, and they're called sheltered housings. Lots of well, my relatives live in them, and elderly folk around this area live in them, but we don't build them anymore. So ideally, these are suited for elderly couples or elderly singles. I would support the application on this ground, on the fact that it isn't materially larger than the property that's already been granted permission for. I don't think there's a need for a site visit, so I would support the officer's recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Shall I bring Adele in before you make a comment, Councillor Hilton? Adele. And then Councillor Hilton, Councillor Hargreaves.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just want to follow on to what I said a short while ago in terms of the built form. You'll see from the presentation slides that in actual built form, they're comparable. Again, the Greenbelt policy, both at a national level and a local level, sets out clearly what can be built on an infill site in the Greenbelt. So I would urge members to maybe consider whether there's an issue here in terms of intensification of use for the site, perhaps, or whether they're not happy with the design. But I would discourage them from concluding that it's inappropriate development in the Greenbelt.
Okay. Councillor Hilton. Councillor Hargreaves, Councillor France.
I'd just like to second Councillor Boardman's proposal. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, right. Yeah, I'd like to second Councillor Boardman's proposal that we accept officer recommendations.
Thank you.
The previous application has been approved. I can see very little difference, and I think the officers have set out very clear guidance to us that this is not an appropriate development to the Greenbelt.
Thank you. Councillor Hargreaves.
I do think if people did attend the site visit, you'll see how small this piece of land is. I do feel it is inappropriate to have two developments on there. It's overdevelopment in that case, and it's overly infilled. It's crucial that we actually listen to what the residents say, because it actually affects their homes. And I hear what Adele says, and I know she's always right, but at the end of the day, I do feel it's very important that we actually look at this, because it's a tiny piece of land. And yes, Councillor Boardman, I did actually see the developer or the landowner cutting down the trees at the end of March, beginning of April, and it has made a great deal of difference to the size of the plot. The planning application and the approval is for one dwelling, I believe, earlier on, 2017, but I think that it is well worth a site visit, because the impact is greater than you think. It's completely out of sync with the street scene to have two tiny one-bedroomed bungalows when you look at the rest of the bungalows and the properties in Springs Crescent. So I would urge you to consider a site visit again, and I'm asking members to consider it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor France.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, to be honest, I'm really struggling. I get entirely no, I don't entirely appreciate the argument. The footprint of the building's the same. It's still 2 beds, so the amount of people potentially living there is pretty much the same. In fact, if anything, in my view, by splitting it, it actually makes an extension in the future more difficult, because if I was to extend that property, and it was just one building, I just add a floor on top, with being split down the middle, actually, to be honest, it lessens the ability that someone would have to do that, and it actually makes it, as Councillor Boardman suggested earlier on, the idea of these sort of grey type buildings, it makes it more likely to be used for that sort of purpose. And if it is, then it actually seems to be that it's less likely to have an awful lot of people living there, or it's more likely to have a small population overall. So looking at this issue, really, I can't see the Greenbelt argument, because it's the same building at the same scale with potentially the same amount of people living in it. So I really can't see that argument. And I'm struggling to see what other reasons are. I get it's a small plot, but I mean, the other thing I can look at it is we've got so many houses we need to build. We've gone from building one on this one site to building 2. We're moving towards hitting our building targets even better, really, with this site that's virtually identical to the one we already had. I can't really see what the problem is. I think we should go for it.
Okay. Councillor Morwood.
Thank you, Chair. Unmuted. Yes, I've listened and I've reconsidered. There's absolutely, on reflection, no reason to refuse this at all. I was initially concerned, thinking 2 buildings, but as been made clear, it's exactly, more or less, exactly the same size as the previous application, and that can go ahead anyway. I take the argument that Councillor Boardman said, 1 bedrooms. I suspect that's what it will go to, retired individuals or older couples, and there is a shortage of that kind of building. I wouldn't benefit from a site visit already been. I am concerned that the vegetation, etc., was cut, and that can be looked at perhaps separately. But at the moment, I'm happy to support. Thank you.
Adele, you want to come in?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just to pick up on the issue of vegetation removal, there isn't any protection orders on the trees, and I note the comments with regard to them being removed in the bird nesting season. That's not a matter for the local planning authority, it's a matter for the police to investigate under the Wildlife Act. We're not empowered to take action on that basis, but we can certainly relay the information on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I've got a proposer, a seconder for refusal, a proposer, a seconder for a site visit, and a proposer and a seconder for the officer recommendation. What I
Madam Chair.
is to vote on. Sorry.
Madam Chair.
Councillor Beaver.
Having listened to tonight's discussion, I withdraw my objection.
Okay, thank you. So I haven't got a set. I'm just going to go for a site visit anyway, and then it will be just for or against the officer recommendation. So we're going to vote for or against a site visit, please, in alphabetical order. Councillor Beaver, for or against the site visit?
Against, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Boardman.
Against, Madam Chair.
Councillor Corns.
Against, Madam Chair.
Councillor Gordon-Franz.
For.
Thank you. Councillor G.
Against.
Councillor Gray. Councillor Hilton. Councillor Hargreaves.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Morwood. Councillor Whittam.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Whitaker. Councillor Whitaker. Is he there?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Chris France.
Against.
And myself against. So,
thank you, Chair. The motion for a site visit is lost.
okay, so now it's for or against the officer recommendation. I'll go through everybody alphabetically again. Councillor Beaver, for or against?
For.
Thank you. Councillor Boardman.
For. Madam Chair.
Councillor Corns.
For.
Councillor Gordon-Franz.
Against.
Councillor G.
For.
Councillor Gray. Councillor Hilton.
For.
Councillor Hargreaves.
Against.
Councillor Morwood.
For.
Councillor Whittam.
For.
Councillor Whitaker.
For.
Councillor
Sorry,
France.
sorry, Chair. I was getting confused. I am against this application. Beg your pardon.
Go on, I'll let you. Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor
Apologies.
Chris France.
I'm for.
And myself for. Alex, the outcome, please.
Thank you, Chair. Members have voted to approve the application to build the two dwellings subject to the conditions in the report.
Okay, thank you. Item 3C, land southwest of Lower Berg Way, pages 61 to 116 with an update on your addendum, although the recommendation remains the same. Adele's going to present this item, which is recommended, it's refused. I've one registered speaker, the agent, Katie Howarth. Katie, can you speak and hear the proceedings?
Yes, I can.
Oh, thank you. Adele, can you present the item?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Planning Committee will recall that they have previously resolved to approve this application subject to the signing of a legal agreement relating to the provision of affordable housing and other financial contributions at their meeting of the 20th of June in 2017. The resolution to approve was based upon the following to be provided as part of the scheme. And that is 35 social rented affordable units on the site, which equates to 17.4% provision. Natural and semi-natural green space contribution of £111,957, allotment contribution of £3,015, and an overage provision of £200 per square foot to make up for the shortfall in the playing pitch payment, which should be £321,399, and the missing affordable housing units of 25 units. Members will recall back at that time we had a viability assessment that was scrutinised, and on the basis of those provisions it was accepted that that would all be included within a legal agreement. Since this time, further negotiations have been entered into at the request of the applicant, and a further submission of more viability assessment has been made. The new offer is a lower affordable housing provision of either 10 social rented units, which equates to 5%, or 6 social rented and 10 shared ownership units, which equates to 8%, with a higher overage threshold of £218 per square foot. The reason for the lower offer are set out in some detail in the committee report. Following review by the Council's expert consultee and advisor on viability assessments, it is considered that the financial viability case put forward by the applicant does not adequately justify the lower level of affordable housing provision and does not meet the requirements of the National Planning Policy Framework and the National Planning Practice Guidance. Consequently, it's considered that the proposal conflicts with Policy 7 of the Central Lancashire Core Strategy, and it is therefore recommended for refusal. I would just point out, however, that there is a detailed update on the addendum which sets out verbatim the comments that have been received by the applicant that has challenged the views that we have taken and the conclusions that we have made. And they are detailed in that addendum, just for your information. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Right, Casey, I'll invite you to make your representations when Alex has started the timer. Alex.
Ms Howarth, I'm just going to set the time off now for 3 minutes. So your time starts now.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to speak. My name is Casey Howarth of Lichfields. I'm the planning consultant who acts on behalf of the applicant, Taylor Wimpey. As you're aware, the application site forms part of a larger allocation for residential development. Taylor Wimpey is currently building out the adjacent site under a separate planning permission. Construction on that site, which will provide 88 new homes, will be completed early next year. Discussions on the Section 106 agreement in relation to the application site have been ongoing since May 2017. After failing to reach agreement on the overage provision, Taylor Wimpey instructed Cushman & Wakefield to provide an updated viability assessment. This is informed by up-to-date information on build costs and site-specific abnormal costs, which are reflected in the benchmark land values. For the past 10 months, Taylor Wimpey has made every effort to engage with the Council to reach an agreed position on site viability. The updated viability assessment that has been submitted is fully in accordance with planning practice guidance. However, officers are willing to accept that the terms of the draft Section 106 agreement from March 2018 would render the development unviable. The applicant's view is that there are inaccuracies and misinterpretations of information contained in the report to committee. However, I'm mindful of time and therefore highlight the following key points. Firstly, the standard build cost adopted in the applicant's appraisal is robust. Secondly, the adjacent site provides clear evidence of the actual net achieved sales price received by Taylor Wimpey after discounts and incentives. The approach taken in the viability appraisal is standard practice, as this represents the actual money received from the sale of property. Thirdly, the benchmark land value has been calculated wholly in accordance with planning practice guidance. The negative land value arrived at by the viability appraisal has not been reported by officers and would not incentivise any landowner to sell. Taylor Wimpey also wishes to highlight that any ransom payment made to Homes England would come out of the residual land value that the landowner receives. This has always been the case, and the committee report is therefore incorrect in this regard. In summary, the viability assessment is based on robust market-facing assumptions and evidence in accordance with the requirements of planning practice guidance. The applicant has made a fair and robust offer of an overage that will provide a financial uplift to the council should revenues improve in the future. This is the correct spirit of any overage agreement. We therefore urge the committee to approve the application, subject to a Section 106 agreement on the terms offered by Taylor Wimpey. This will avoid a costly and time-consuming appeal for both sides and enable this site to be brought forward at the earliest opportunity. Granting consent tonight would also retain the construction jobs from Taylor Wimpey's adjacent sites, which would be lost if the development of the application site is delayed by the planning appeal process. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I'll now invite members for comments and questions. If you like to do so, raise your hand. Or if you're joining from home, raise your hands virtually. I've got Councillor France, put your hand down, and Councillor Hilton.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to start by saying let's just move on and refuse this, because I'm actually was really annoyed when I read this, particularly when you go to paragraph 2 on page 61, which discusses the fact that they started from a position of going all the way down from 0% from 35. I was really, really impressed with this application when it came through, largely because of the contributions to social housing and the provisions that were within it. I may have made a totally different decision on the original application had it been 0 or had it been as low as 5. So frankly, it's not acceptable, and I don't agree with the arguments put forward in either 6 or 7, paragraph 6 or 7 on page 62. Errors in judgment have been made by applicant. Well, when I used to work in business, I certainly wouldn't. I mean, if it had been an error in judgment, it wouldn't have just gone turned around and said, look, do you know what we're going to do? We're just going to change what we're going to ship. You're going to ship you half of half the goods that we actually originally agreed to. No, you'd have to ship it. And the simple fact of the matter is, unfortunately, there's no way I could possibly prove this. And there's no real proper justification in this document that for a reduction down to 5% or 8% from 17.4, it needs to be thrown out. And I'm hoping that a company like Taylor Wimpey comes back and actually makes a proper application. But thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Hilton.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. This is actually my ward, and I can tell you we don't have enough social housing in my ward anyway. There are people that have grown up in the area, and they simply can't afford to live there. Couples are close-knit community. I can't accept this for what it is, and I completely agree with the officer recommendations that we need to refuse this.
Okay. I've got Councillor Morwood.
And me.
Sorry, and me. That was Councillor Whittaker. They've not told me. Councillor Morwood, Councillor Whittaker.
Right. I don't think I put my hand up, but I'll come in unless Councillor Whittaker wants to. I wholeheartedly agree with Councillor France. I accept expert opinion from the council. If it's not viable, then don't build it. I'm happy to go with the recommendation.
Okay. Councillor Whittaker, sorry, I missed you.
Thank you, Chair. I am unmuted, I think.
You are.
I was a little bit cross with the crocodile tears from Taylor Wimpey. They talk about discounts and incentives, and they cry crocodile tears about the loss of construction jobs. This multi-million-pound company is insulting our intelligence. Do I believe Taylor Wimpey, or do I believe our officer's assessment? I very clearly believe our officer's assessment, and I entirely support the refusal.
Okay, thank you. Any more comments from anybody? If not, I'll move straight to the vote. Okay, so it's a simple for and against. I'll go through everybody in alphabetical order. Councillor Beaver, for or against the recommendation? To refuse.
I'm for the recommendation to refuse.
Right, thank you. Councillor Boardman.
For, Madam Chair.
Councillor Corns.
To refuse.
Yes, for. To refuse is your for refusal. Councillor Gordon France.
For.
Councillor G.
For.
Councillor Gray. Councillor Hilton. Councillor Hargreaves.
For.
Councillor Morwood.
For.
Councillor Whittam.
For.
Councillor Whittaker.
For.
Councillor France.
With great pride, Chair. For.
And at 4. Alex.
Thank you, Chair. Members have voted unanimously to refuse the application for the reasons contained in paragraph 16 of the report.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to item 3D, Jack Green Farm, Brindle. Pages 117 to 134 in your pack with an update on your addendum, although the recommendation remains the same. Ian's going to present this item and it's recommended that is approved subject to conditions. I have one registered speaker, the agent Rob Harrison. Rob, can you confirm you're able to speak and hear the proceedings?
I think I've just unmuted myself, so
I think you have, because I can hear you now.
Lovely, jolly good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ian, can you present the item, please?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Chair. Sorry about that. This application seeks planning permission for the conversion of a barn into 3 dwellings. This would involve the demolition of a more recent barn structure to the side and rear in order to extend the existing stone barn as part of the conversion works. The application site forms part of an agricultural holding and is located in the Greenbelt on Orham Road in Brindle, which is a rural part of the borough. Framework and local plan allows for certain forms of development that are not inappropriate in the Greenbelt, provided that they preserve its openness and do not conflict with the purposes of including land within it. This includes the reuse of existing buildings, provided that the buildings are of permanent and substantial construction. The existing barn to be converted is of the substantial stone construction, and the additions to the building would not be disproportionate, particularly in the context of the buildings to be removed. The character of the building will be retained, and the alterations will be sympathetic to its agricultural origins, whilst the curtilage will be tightly defined. As such, the development would not be inappropriate in the Greenbelt and would not be harmful to the character of the area. The site is relatively isolated from other dwellings and as a result would have no impact on residential amenity. LCC Highways have raised no objection and confirmed that they are of the opinion that the proposed development would not have a significant impact on highway safety, capacity or amenity in the immediate vicinity of the site. Overall, the proposed development is considered to be in accordance with the policies of the development plan and is recommended for approval subject to the conditions set out on the addendum. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Rob, I invite you to make your representations after Alex has started the timer. Alex.
Mr. Harrison, I'll set the timer off now for 3 minutes. So your 3 minutes begins now.
Thank you. As you know, I'm Rob Harrison, the planning agent for this application. Due to the continued decline of small-scale dairy farming across the UK, an economic reuse of the traditional barns at Jack Green Farm is sought through their conversion into residential units, 3 units in total. The applicant, as we've heard, has commissioned a structural survey and an ecology survey, both of which have confirmed there will be no issues in converting these barns. Many of the modern buildings will be removed as part of the redevelopment, and a lot of hard standing will be turned into garden areas where often wildlife thrives. The design is sympathetic to and retains the character of the traditional buildings whilst providing modern residential living accommodation. The residential amenity of nearby residential properties, which are incidentally owned and occupied by the applicant, is protected through the careful design of the barn conversions. Care has been given to ensure privacy is maintained through the placement and orientation of windows and garden areas. It has been necessary to slightly increase the ridge height of the roof of the building to accommodate a more practical first floor living space. Jolley Council have approved increases in roof heights to many barn conversions similar to this application in the past, and were happy that the increase would not have an adverse impact on the Greenbelt and its appearance. LCC have raised no objections and concerns regarding highway safety. The conversion is compliant with paragraph 146 of the National Planning Policy Framework, which states that the reuse of buildings, provided that the buildings are of permanent or substantial construction, is not inappropriate development in the Greenbelt. Therefore, there are no planning policy grounds, ecology or highway reasons why this application should not be approved by the Planning Committee members this evening. Thank you.
Sorry about that. I invite members for the comments and ask questions.
No worries.
Okay. Anybody? Councillor Beaver. Councillor France.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I think all of us a sad loss to see farm buildings go. I am a little bit concerned about the additional 1 metre roof height, but there are no objections, and it's a sympathetic redevelopment turning the head standards into gardens. So this is a plus to it, and I recommend the officers support the officers' recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor France.
Thank you, Chair. To be honest, I'd like to echo Councillor Beaver's view. It is sad to see the loss of some of these traditional farm buildings, but at least the state's going to remain in the fact that they are going to be converted sympathetically into housing. And I'd like to echo the comments of the Brindle Parish Council in regards to that particular sympathy. Yes, I think this is a good example of a straightforward conversion. I'm happy to second it.
Thank you. Any more comments from anyone? If not, I'll move to the vote. Okay. It's for the officer recommendation, which is to approve subject to conditions. It's been proposed and seconded, and I'll go through each member alphabetically to vote. Councillor Beaver.
For, Madam Chair.
Councillor Boardman.
For, Madam Chair.
Councillor Corns.
For.
Councillor Gordon-France.
4.
Councillor G.
4.
Councillor Gray. Councillor Hilton. Councillor Hargreaves.
4.
Councillor Morwood.
4.
Councillor Whittam.
4.
Councillor Whitaker.
4.
Councillor France.
4.
Myself 4. Alex, can you confirm?
Thank you, Chair. Members have voted unanimously to approve the application at Jack Green Farm, subject to conditions in the addendum.
Thank you. Item 3E, 109 Market Street, Jolley, pages 135 to 152, with an update on your addendum. Although the recommendation that the application is approved subject to conditions is the same. Ian's going to present this item, and I have a registered speaker, Dr. Simon Lichman. Simon, can you hear? Are you able to speak and hear the proceedings?
Yes, I can hear you very well, thanks.
Thank you. Ian, could you present the item?
Yes, thank you, Chair. This application seeks planning permission for the change of use of a ground floor restaurant to a retail shop and the conversion of the upper floors to 2 flats, including works to raise the roof and other alterations. To the rear part of the site is a separate building which is proposed to convert into a single dwelling house. The site's located in Jolley town centre within a row of commercial units. The main building fronts onto Market Street and is currently a restaurant, whilst the rear building fronts onto Anderton Street and is used for storage. The proposed development would provide 2 flats and a dwelling in a highly sustainable location, which is supported by local and national policy. The use of the ground floor for retail would retain a main town centre use and maintain an active street frontage. The development would not therefore impact on the vitality and viability of Jolley town centre. The physical alterations to the exterior of the building would be relatively limited and would not alter the general appearance, whilst the development would have the potential to improve the appearance of the site and would have the benefit of introducing an active street frontage onto Anderton Street, where currently there isn't one. The development would have no adverse impact on residential amenity and would provide an adequate level of amenity to future occupiers. There's no off-street parking available at the site. However, it is accepted that the site's in a highly sustainable location that's well served by public transport, and LCC Highways raised no objection on this basis. Overall, the proposed development is considered to be in accordance with the policies of the development plan and is recommended for approval subject to the conditions set out in the addendum. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Ian. Simon, I'll invite you to make representations when Alex tells you can start to speak. Alex, can you start the timer, please?
Dr. Lichman, your 3 minutes begins now.
Okay, thank you. I'm speaking on behalf of my sister, Catherine Lichman, and myself. Our small family property business has been in existence in Jolley for 56 years. Once we lost the Happy Village restaurant, we found it hard to find new tenants, and sadly 109 has gone into disrepair. We have applied for planning permission in order to improve our property, revitalize our business, and also as a way of giving something back to the community for which we hold great respect and a sense of gratitude. We believe our planned development will improve the town centre by protecting the building itself and stopping them from falling into further repair, and by offering much needed affordable housing in the area. And we thank you for this opportunity to address you.
Okay, thank you. I've got Councillor Boardman, Councillor Morwood, Councillor France.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Firstly, I'd like to say how disappointed I am, and not from the application, but the closing of Happy Village. I spent many a good night in there. I was very disappointed when it closed its doors a few years ago. However, on the flip side of that, I'm 100% supportive of applications that come forward to convert former retail within our town centre to town centre living. It is the way forward for our town centre. We have got an overabundance of retail and empty retail, and I really do hope more applications like this do come forward. So the application gets my full support. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Morwood.
Thank you, Chair. I wholeheartedly agree with Councillor Boardman. That's it's terrific to see new retail on Market Street, and even more importantly, to see above these shops being improved and into flats. A lot of Market Street looks terrific at sort of eye level, but you start to look above and it's not quite as good. So I'm very, very happy to second this proposal. And I also must say to Dr. Lichman, who I believe is many miles away, that you are the clearest I have heard in all the speakers tonight. And you are some distance away, I think. Thank you.
Councillor Franz.
Let's just move to the vote, Chair.
Okay. Anybody else wish to comment? If not, Councillor Beaver.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I echo what's been said. There are going to be parking issues with this, but the buyers are going to know what they're getting, and we've already been said that it's town centre. I would like to see if we can address paragraph 4. There are concerns by a resident as to whether the passageway is part of the development and would it hinder the owners of 111 Market Street.
Okay. Ian, do you want to come back on that, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. There wouldn't be any alterations to any of the passageways or accesses, and the proposal wouldn't impact on the ability to use those passageways or accesses. So I can confirm that.
Okay. Adele, you wanted to comment?
Yeah, just to pick up on that point is addressed specifically at paragraph 21 of the report. Thank you.
Thank you. If no more comments, I'll move to the votes in alphabetical order as usual. So it's for or against the officer recommendation, which is to approve subject to conditions. I'll call on each member alphabetically. Councillor Beaver.
For, Madam Chair.
Councillor Boardman.
For, Madam Chair.
Councillor Corns.
For.
Councillor Gordon Franz.
For.
Councillor G.
For.
Councillor Gray.
For.
Councillor Hilton.
For.
Councillor Hargreaves.
For.
Councillor Morwood. Councillor Whittam. Councillor Whittam.
For.
Councillor Whittaker. Yeah, got you.
For.
Councillor Franz.
That was a 4.
Yes.
For.
I got it. Councillor me. For. Didn't need to read my name out, did I? Alex, the outcome, please.
Thank you, Chair. Members have voted unanimously to approve the application, the Happy Village Restaurant, former Happy Village Restaurant, subject to conditions in the addendum.
Okay. Item 3F, 14 The Warings, Heskin, Jolley, pages 153 to 170. Adele's going to present this item. The officer recommendation is approved subject to conditions. And Councillor Whittaker, you have to leave the meeting.
I am now leaving. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I have no registered speakers. Adele, can you present the item, please?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, this application is for a domestic house order extension and wouldn't normally be before planning committee. But obviously, as you're aware, it's Councillor Whittaker's property, and therefore under the provisions of the council's constitution, it needs to be reviewed by yourselves. It's a dormer extension to the side elevation. The property is located in the Greenbelt, but the size of the extension is such that it doesn't exceed what is considered to be a proportionate extension. There are no impacts on amenity, and we're happy with the appearance in the street scene. There are lots of similar examples in the immediate vicinity, and the application is recommended for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Franz, Chris Franz.
This is a very straightforward application. I'm more than happy to propose it.
Okay, thank you. Can somebody second it, please?
Lots
of people. Councillor Boardman. Oh, there are about 4 people in the room as well. Okay. Any further comments from anyone? If not, I'll move to the vote. Councillor Marwood.
Oh, I do think we should keep Councillor Whittaker hanging on for just a moment longer, just to,
That's cruel.
No,
ramp up the tension. Yes. Okay, it is. Right. So I have a proposer and a seconder. So I'll go through everybody alphabetically to vote for or against the officer recommendation to approve. Councillor Beaver. Councillor Boardman.
For, Madam Chair.
Councillor Corns.
For.
Councillor Franz.
4.
Councillor G.
4.
Councillor Gray.
4.
Councillor Hilton.
4.
Councillor Hargreaves.
4.
Councillor Morwood.
4.
Councillor Whittam.
4.
Councillor Whittaker isn't here. Councillor France.
4, Chair.
And myself 4. Alex, can you confirm?
Thank you, Chair. Members have voted unanimously to approve the application at 14 the Warings Heskin, subject to the conditions contained in the report.
I have no items of urgent business. Thank you for your attendance, and we have survived our meeting. Thank you. Councillor Hilton, did you want to say something before we go? I can't hear you.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to say I recognise that a huge amount of work has gone behind the scenes to arrange these meetings at the moment. So I'd just like to thank the officers for doing that, the planning officers, but also particularly IT and Democratic Services. So thank you very much. You've done a great job.
Yes, thank you from us all. Okay, and with that, good evening and safe journey home.
Thank you.